Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
So we need to talk about this.
What?
We texted about this yesterday.
Yeah.
But I want to say, oops, she did it again, but I don't know if she did it before. And I think
Right.
this has probably been used by other folks. So Britney Spears has been banned from the Four Seasons in LA after she made guests, quote, uncomfortable by going
Yes.
topless at the pool. Uh, One, it's a pool.
Hmm.
I mean, it's LA. It's an LA pool. I would expect nothing less, frankly.
Right. Two, she cannot be the first person to go topless at the Four Seasons in LA.
Completely.
Two, if this was the Four Seasons Paris, everyone would be, I don't know if there has to be a Four Seasons in Paris.
Yes.
Four
And by the
Seasons
way,
St.
did you give,
Bart's,
were there two twos there? I feel like you said two and then two again.
probably. I
Okay,
probably
sorry.
did. And so four, because it's the Four
C,
Seasons.
right.
C, right. Um, like, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I was just around all topless people all the time. So it's a pool, it's a beach. If you're in San Tropez, everybody's topless.
And let's be honest, would you rather go to the Four Seasons now, knowing that they banned Britney Spears being topless by the pool? Or would you rather go to the Four Seasons knowing you might bump into Britney Spears having a great afternoon lounging by the pool,
Correct.
with or without top?
Correct. And why is it newsworthy that she was topless?
Right. Again,
I
this goes
feel
back to
like
the shame and the things we talked about with our various top freedom friends.
I agree.
Let's just say
And
that five times fast.
I know. And I feel like of all the things Britney's done, let's give Britney a bit of a break on this one.
And in some ways, let he who is without top cast the first stone. I
And
feel like so much of the things that she's getting pilloried for are things that people have done in their normal day-to-day life for decades, if not
correct.
centuries.
And was it because she rolled over? Now, if she was lying on her stomach,
Right?
I mean, everybody I know, even my more conservative friends, untie their tops when
Right.
they're on their stomach.
Right.
When they roll over, they probably tie them because, whatever. But really, this was dumb. I am not okay with her getting kicked out because of this.
And it's again, let he who has not done this or something similar to this or gone barefoot in a gas station restroom, let's just let bygones be bygones.
Right.
And hasn't she been through enough? Do we need to shame her about something else that's not really shame worthy?
I agree. I'm very upset about this one.
Like, I feel like pop culture in general has made a right turn into
Right.
the correct lane to say, you know what? This person grew up with an incredibly messed up during all these developmental years, incredibly difficult and trying circumstances and situations. We
Right.
as a society owe her an apology for what we put her through.
Well, and now we're also conveying to the world that once again, it's naughty to have our tops off,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but it's not.
What better way to show the world at large that we've got our act together than shaming pop stars?
Right. We're doing what most of the world just does at the
Doesn't
beach
think it's a big deal.
because it's not
Right.
a big deal. It
And
was so not a big deal in St. Martin,
that's
except for
amazing.
like the dorky, like, middle-aged, washed up frat guys at like one beach sitting at a table. Like there was literally like one table of five very American.
Were they drinking light beer?
Well, I was drinking light beer, so at that particular juncture, so I can't cast stones on that.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
And where did I see it? Was it TMZ?
It was
Or
TMZ.
I was like,
TMZ
what?
has better things to talk about.
Right. I'm sorry. Oh, who's running this story here? Because this is the U.S. Sun, which is apparently a thing.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
So,
Yeah.
banned from the force after about her quote bizarre behavior. That's bizarre.
I don't think it's bizarre. And it's certainly not bizarre for her. Like if I don't know who would be someone that it would feel bizarre for. Like if I don't know, I'm trying to think of somebody who
I
seems buttoned
bizarre.
up.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
like your Dame Judi Dench's, for example.
I feel like she'd go topless
Oh,
because she's
totally.
British. Who's like a seemingly like
But here's the thing that I find hysterical. Um, they say here at the U.S. Sun, Britney was a longtime guest at the quote five-star family-friendly hotel.
it's not family
Come on,
friendly.
nothing in LA is family friendly.
No one takes their kids to the Four Seasons. If
Right.
she was topless on the water slide at Knott's Berry Farm, we could have a conversation.
Sure. Exactly.
You know, like, I mean, and so on one respect, you go like your top's gonna fall off anyway, because it's kind of like it's the water slides are dangerous as we've learned.
Right. Yes.
But you maybe should at least start clothed and let the water mess with your outfit. But
Right.
it's
And
maybe
again,
start with a one piece. But
but a hotel pool, I would assume, sort of self-selecting because it's only people who are staying there. It's not like
correct.
some places sell day passes, but again, it is a monitored group of people there, and they are
Correct.
going there to relax, to lay around. It is not a water park. They don't have a splashy zone at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills.
Not last time I checked.
Now, like you said, if I mean, there's the whole thing. Would this traumatize children? But okay, let's just play that game and say, sure, should be for adults.
But don't
So
you
don't.
think it's a really small window of children too? I was thinking about that. Like,
And that small window of children are very connected to that small window of adults who would be equally scandalized by this.
right, right. Because like little kids, not even gonna notice,
Don't care.
not
Right.
even gonna care.
Right. And do you want them to yeah, this is again, we're going down this whole thing of like, let's continue a body shaming and all of that with everybody and make this something that it's
Right.
not, make it something scandalous and awful and all of that.
Like it was so, I think I told you my little like nieces and nephews saw Barbie over the summer and they
Mhm.
loved it. Like they just loved it. And I didn't see it
Yeah.
with them. And I was so excited that they loved it and they thought it was so fun. And I rewatched it with them recently.
Mhm.
And it was so fun to watch it with them
Mhm.
because they loved it. They watched it so much in the right way. It reminded me so much of watching like Three's Company in Greece as a kid because
Mhm.
they laughed at all these things that they thought were hysterical that they had no idea were hysterical in such a different way than they were laughing, which made
Right.
it even funnier for me as an adult,
Hmm.
which is why you gotta like read into the PG-13 rating and realize that sometimes it's okay for things to like go over a kid's head
Yeah,
and don't get so
exactly.
stuck up on the like, oh, not
Right.
appropriate.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let them
And it'll be something that years from now they'll go, oh, that's
right.
right. That's what that
It's
joke
okay to
means.
like kind of grow into like grow with
Yeah.
it, you
Hmm.
know, not be, oh,
And
it's not, you're not old enough.
and that movie is such a perfect hiding your vegetables in your food type of film
Yes.
that I don't think many 7-year-olds are looking at it going like, oh wow, that really kind of shows the exploitation of women and the
Right.
using of sexuality. Why can't I say that today?
No, no.
Sexuality to sell things and you know
I know.
patriarchy. Uh And that's the thing I loved about the movie is the way they put that all in there. And you don't have to take that away from it if you don't want to,
Mm-mm.
but it's in there. It's in your head. It's you had to see this and have that kind of flash across your eyes at some point, which is kind of just wonderful and what you would want.
Right. But it also, as the queen of the for your consideration, Ryan Gosling for Best Supporting Actor, and said it from day
Mhm.
one he should win. I'm so excited that he's on the list.
Right.
Um, it also has tucked in there, hidden in there very subtly. It's okay to be a dude. It's okay. You're not entirely the problem. The problem is bigger.
Hmm.
You can be a good guy. You can figure it out.
Right.
We can ride this wave together.
Yeah. We all want to be Ken, but sometimes we're Alan.
Sometimes we're Alan. So we
So
kind of, we're all in this mess together. We just all have to figure out our role and how we get through it.
exactly. Well said. And here's
Okay.
Eric. Let me let him in.
Look at that.
What made you think I've got all this Lego? I should really build the Kennedy assassination out of it.
Yeah, so the the history goes back to, I believe it was when I was in fifth or sixth grade. We were required by the librarian to check out a book about a president, and I always joke that I think it was like my fourth grade report card. I has difficulty comprehending. And I don't. I still think that's the case because I'm not a big fan of reading novel type books. I don't go through and read 300 or 400 page books like my wife does, where she'll read like 100 of those in a year. I like picture books with maybe some captions here or there. So the book that I checked out was a large time life picture book about the Kennedys. And my mom's parents, they have had a cottage out on Martha's Vineyard since like the late 60s. And they were big Kennedy fans. There was always literature or things around their place about the Kennedys. So I kind of became very familiar with the Kennedy family while I was growing up in elementary school. And my mom's brother, they used to, both my mom's side of the family, my grandfather was an English professor at Ohio University, and every 5 years he would go on sabbatical over to Germany to teach English. So my mom and my uncle were fluent in German. They spent a year over there in school as well. And my uncle brought me back. He would still do a lot of traveling over there as an adult, but when I was growing up, he would bring back Legos, and that's kind of how I started, just playing with them. And I always thought I was, destined to be some type of engineer until I started taking physics in high school, and then that dream quickly faded away. But I basically I would get throughout elementary school, like my birthday's December 23rd, I would always get Lego sets for both Christmas and my birthday. And I'd have them put together usually a day or two after that. And I always enjoyed just following the directions, putting it together. So I started messing around in fifth or sixth grade, where I basically built the limousine. And it was custom. I built it off of Legos that I had. There's no kit for any of the stuff that I did with the JFK assassination model. That was off of a book or off of a kit or a set.
So were you studying? Sorry, were you studying stills of the Zapruder film to make that model of the presidential limousine?
Yeah, I actually I can't remember if I bought it myself or if somebody gave it to me as a gift. But the book that I used was Robert Groden's *The Killing of a President*.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big, huge picture. I mean, there's a lot of text and everything in it, but there's a ton of pictures in it. And that's what I used where I built the car. I built the limousine first. Then I built the Secret Service follow-up car. Then I had a couple police motorcycle officers from one of the police sets, that like the police station set. So I was kind of like, okay, I got the limousine, the follow-up car, the motorcycles. And then I was like, well, maybe I could build Elm Street and Houston Street and Main Street and the book depository, Daltex building, records building, and criminal courthouse building, and then the pergola and the grassy knoll. So I built that. And then it basically just morphed into, okay, I have an airport that's a Lego set. Well, that'll be Love Field. And I had the presidential plane, I had the plane, and I just wrote United States of America on the top of it. And then I basically connected the motorcade route from Love Field. I created the downtown Dallas area where I just built these tall buildings, and none of them are really significant as far as what building is what. Mm-hmm. But I created Main Street, all of the people, all the Lego figurines that I had from all the different sets. I used them along the motorcade route, and then I had a hospital set that I actually took apart the hospital set and then rebuilt what I thought Parkland Hospital's emergency entrance area looked like from the pictures, and kind of customized the hospital a little bit, and built Stemmons Freeway out of they were gray sections that used to be part of like a railroad set. Mm-hmm. Where the train would, the Lego train would kind of pull up to the gray pieces, which looked like they were elevated, street sections. That became Stemmons Freeway. So that's kind of how it morphed into, just starting out from building the limousine to then morphing it into basically all of downtown Dallas.
And just so people understand, Lego does not make a My First Presidential Motorcade set. They also don't make a Presidents of American History, to say nothing of Texas Governors of American History. So you had to have a Kennedy, you had to have a John Connolly, and you had to have a Jackie Kennedy with a pillbox hat, which brilliant solution to that problem, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. What ended up happening was, nobody ever knew about this. It would sit down in the basement of my mom's house, where I was obviously living at the time, going through middle school, and I would still even mess around with it in high school, which, every now and then I would get man, talk about being a super dork, and sitting down in your basement, messing with this thing. But I played golf in high school, and I actually played golf on a scholarship in college, but I always enjoyed building stuff. And it just so happened that I enjoyed building with Legos versus building models with something else. And once it kind of started morphing into this, well, let me create this part of the motorcade route. Let me create this. Let me create that. I originally thought like, man, I could build this up where at some point somebody might want it. And about 5 years ago, I had reached out to the curator at the Sixth Floor Museum in Dallas, and my mom was getting ready to retire. So I'd been out of the house for, 15, 20 years. The model was just sitting downstairs collecting cobwebs. And I'm like, man, my mom's going to move out of this house. She's going to move to Florida. And I don't want to just throw all this stuff away. Maybe I could find somebody that might want it. And they actually sent their team up, their collection team up, as well as the curator came up to Northwest Indiana and took a look at it. We went down into my mom's basement, and I had cleaned it up prior to that. And I'd also gone in, and I thought, man, if I'm going to be bringing some, people from a museum, especially the Sixth Floor Museum, down into the basement to look at this, there might be some things that I want to redo with it. So a couple months prior to them actually arriving, I went on eBay and I bought a bunch of orange bricks, and I rebuilt the book depository to be orange, as it originally was red, because those are the bricks that I had.
Right.
And I've got old pictures. They're actually printed photos of what the limousine used to look like, what the depository used to look like versus the photos that are on the Facebook page now. And that was, when you brought up Jackie's pillbox hat, that was one of the things where I went on eBay and I bought a pink body and ended up buying a pink single circular, what I felt like I could use as the pillbox hat, and I glued that to the back of her head. So amazing. There were certain things where I kind of felt like I would say that I'm a very close to a perfectionist, to where it's like, hey, if they're going to potentially take this model and it might end up going on display in the museum at some point, I want it to look as close as I can make it to the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
Where did you put Oswald in your display? Is he in the book depository?
Well, I believe that Oswald was not one of the shooters. I believe he was on the second floor of the depository in the lunchroom having lunch at the time of the shooting. So there is a figure in the 6th floor window with a rifle, but when you ask the question of where do you put Lee Harvey Oswald, I would put him at I don't have a kitchen inside of the depository, but I would put him on the second. I would put him on the second floor, in the lunchroom.
So I guess this begs the obvious next question: is the shadowy figure able to get 3 shots off from a 6.5 millimeter bolt action Carcano rifle in the 5.6 seconds that the Warren Commission said those shots were fired in?
Well, I think the FBI actually proved that somebody could get the shots off in that time. In their model, do I believe that those shots would be accurate and the third one would be the one that hit Kennedy in the head? No. There is a figure, and I don't have a good picture of it, but there is a figure behind the picket fence with a rifle. And I also have a figure with a rifle in the 2nd or 3rd floor of the Daltex building in the model.
I was going to ask if there was smoke on your grassy knoll, but I guess there is.
There is.
Yes, there is. There were. I mean, and I'm obviously a JFK researcher, and I listen to a lot of the podcasts. Rob Reiner's podcast that they recently did, I blew through that in about 2 days of those, 8 episodes or 10 episodes. And I mean, there were witnesses that were standing on the triple underpass and multiple people in the motorcade that smelled gunpowder, that saw the puff of smoke come out behind the from underneath the tree line. And I do believe that the fatal headshot came from the grassy knoll.
Have you ever wanted, from listening to those, have you ever wanted to move the figures?
So one of the things that I did when I actually, met multiple times with the curator at the 6th floor museum, and they ended up coming back up, and they accepted the donation of the model, and they boxed it up. So it's been in storage. It hasn't been put on display yet, but it's one of the things that they let me know that at some point when they have the space, that they do believe they'll be able to put it on display in the museum. And I think one of the things that it would be really cool to do, and I kind of did it from my pictures that are on the Facebook page, is taking still shots of the limousine turning from Harwood Street onto Main Street. And that famous picture where JFK and Jackie are kind of leaning, looking at the camera and waving. You could see Clint Hill on the back running board. You could see the motorcycle police officers behind JFK. I did the same thing with the Zapruder film, where if you click through the pictures, they're basically still images. And one of the things that the curator at the museum thought was it would be a great social media campaign for the anniversary, to where they would take the still pictures and almost timestamp them on November 22nd of like, where was the motorcade? Well, here's where the Lego motorcade's at. Here's their arrival at Love Field. Here's the, the motorcade getting to Main Street, and then obviously entering Dealey Plaza around 12:30, and then getting to the hospital at about 12:35. So there's a number of ideas and things like that we've talked about of, how can we make this somewhat interactive? How can we get, specifically kids that are interested in Legos? And obviously they do a lot of field trips through the museum, where I just thought that would be a great way to be able to, to put the model on display. And if that gets kids interested in, whether it's the assassination, the Kennedys, presidential history, anything, it's a great connection to make for young people that are interested in it.
And you don't hold back on anything. I mean, on the Facebook page, when you have this sort of A/B comparison, you have frame 313 of the Zapruder film, which is the, for lack of a better term, headshot.
Yep.
That is not the most pleasant thing to look at, but you have it completely everyone where they should be in Lego.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think one of the things when people see the model in person, like I had my high school golf coach, he came down, he's like, "Hey, how's the model going?" I'm like, "Well, come on down, come on over, I'll show it to you." And even the curator at the Sixth Floor Museum, Stephen Fagan, when he came down, he sat down on the floor and he's like, "Man, you've got Mary Mormon wearing black and holding a camera. You've got Gene Hill wearing red. You've got Charles Brem. You've got Gail Newman and their kids." I said, "Well, yeah, I was taking them off of the pictures and my knowledge of, that day and videos and pictures and things like that to make it look as real as I could."
Yeah. Do you have the Umbrella Man? Is he there?
I do have the Umbrella Man. However, Lego.
Why would you ask such a thing? Of course he does.
I was not able to. The umbrella that I have is one that has not been opened. He's holding an umbrella, but it's a closed one. So I have yet to find an open Lego umbrella that I could use.
So in building all of this, well, actually, let's go back. I feel like we skipped over the obvious question. Did you have to have any special meetings at school where your parents were called in?
No, but it's always funny that my people will see this and they'll ask my parents. They're like, is Eric like a loner? Was he like very quiet, a very quiet person? Like, did he not get along with anybody? Did he not have any friends? And I answer all those questions where I would say no. I mean, I had plenty of friends. I enjoyed doing stuff, playing sports, being involved in a lot of different things. But this was also this interest of mine that, I would get my homework done. I'd go practice golf, and then I'd get home, and 7 to 9 o'clock at night, I'd be down there for 2 hours, building something out. And it's kind of like I would say like an old man's model, to where it's like, that old man that lives across the street, he just spends time in his basement building this model boat or ship or something. Like that was me as a 12 or 13-year-old.
But you got to admit, it's not the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad coming down the tracks.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have moments where you're like, I'm making a model of the killing of the president?
Yeah, there were, and even having the Facebook page, I mean, I've had a couple comments written on there where like, "This is so sick. I can't believe that you did this." The Kennedy family be rolling over in their grave or whatever. And it's kind of like,
that's not it, please. If this is the worst thing that upsets them, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I got pretty thick skin where it's like, all right, thanks for your opinion. Have a good day. It doesn't bother me. I think it's just the combination of the fascination of what really happened that day and Legos. It's like that was where those two things collided for me, was the interest. And I read and I watch so many different movies, biographies, History Channel stuff that has to do with the Kennedys. and always kind of having that, like, man, if you get 3 questions that, I joke sometimes, like, when you die, if you get 3 questions that you will get guaranteed to get the truth of them, of the answer of what happened, I'm burning one of the 3 on what really happened on November 22nd, 1963.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it is, I mean, it's so like, I don't know, but it's a very romanticized unsolved mystery too, right? Like it's one of those ones that people are so fascinated by, and everyone's so like, I don't know, I don't think it's creepy.
Yeah,
And
I think that there was a lot. I think as the files are released, I think as the time goes by, we'll find out more. I mean, we're never going to find out who the actual shooters were. I mean, they're probably long gone and dead, or if they are still alive, they're very old.
right.
And and I just think that it's something where, I almost look at the files and what hasn't been released yet is like, come on, the American people, like, do you think that we're naive enough to think that, our own president can't be killed by, factions of our own government, or
Right.
whether it was the CIA and the mob, definitely had definitely have had motive to see Kennedy not be alive anymore. And, it's like, okay, tell us that. Like, what do you think is going to change tomorrow if all of a sudden that happened? I mean, we look at how much the American society and population distrusts the government right now. Like, why would that be any different if all of a sudden the truth came out?
Right.
Yeah, if this is the thing that shakes your faith,
Right.
you would say you've got pretty thin skin,
Yeah.
or you're not reading.
You just haven't read a whole lot.
You
Yeah,
also,
I mean, it's.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's just more like letting it out there gives credibility back to the government. It's like, yeah, this is what happened. It's it's 60 years ago. We hope it doesn't happen again. This is what we're doing to try to make sure it doesn't happen again. Okay, great. Moving on.
Plus, anything that brings history, good, bad, or indifferent, into a digestible form that people can relate to, I think is a good thing.
Well, I think the reason why this continues to be a thing every anniversary, every year, there's always some new book, new documentary, is because we feel like we haven't gotten to the truth. There hasn't been hey, this is what happened. The government has released everything, National Archives, CIA, whatever, FBI files, all this. This is what happens. And I wouldn't necessarily blame anybody that is involved in government today, because they really didn't have anything to do with it 60 years ago.
Right.
All right. You said you have the depiction of Parkland, you have the depiction of Love Field. You also have the shooting of Oswald by Jack Ruby,
Yes.
which, nice job on the cowboy hats, by the way. Did you
Yeah,
consider
thank you.
Did you consider changing Oswald's expression? So, because right now I believe he has the Lego smiley face, so he doesn't look as happy about being shot in the stomach by the owner of a local strip club.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one where that was built very, very quickly before the curator and his collections team got there. It was kind of like, okay, who are 3 or 4 people that I could put that looks like what Ruby wore, and what the 2 detectives were, and what Oswald. And it was one of those that you're the first person that's actually pointed that out. So whenever it is that we're going to be taking, we'll be taking the boxes of the model out and potentially putting it up inside the museum, I will make sure that I change Oswald's face to a grimace type face, and that way it's as real as it could be.
That's probably fair.
Yeah. And I don't know if I saw it. Is there an LBJ Lego figure? And frankly, what the hell does an LBJ Lego figure look like?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the tough thing was the limousine is actually bigger or wider than every other motorcade car except for Chief Curry's car, and the lead car. And the vice presidential car, which wasn't a limousine, it was just a rented, whether it was, I can't remember, a Lincoln, I think was what Vice President Johnson, Lady Bird, and Senator Ralph Yarborough rode in. So because of the fact that it's a narrow, regular size Lego car, I couldn't get 3 people sitting in the back seat. So I basically just have Vice President Johnson and Lady Bird. I don't have a Ralph Yarborough, which, if you remember a little bit about the controversy, where Senator Yarborough did not want to ride with Johnson the day before in either San Antonio or Houston. And the morning of the assassination, Kennedy told one of his aides to tell Yarborough, either you're riding with Johnson or you're walking in Dallas. And so it's one of those things where I think if I tried to squeeze 3 people on there, Johnson and Yarborough would look like they would only have one half of their butt on the car, because it's only a 4 Lego piece wide back seat instead of it being 6.
Nobody's perfect there.
No, I
You're
mean,
doing-
I know.
You're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's passable.
What was it like to pack all this up and
I'd be
send it
so
to the
scared
museum?
after all that work.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's something that you spent so much time on to just give it away to somebody else, even though you know it will be displayed and all of that's not, going in the trash.
Yeah, I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to Stephen and his team, his collections team at the museum, because I kind of was laughing when they first came in and they're like, okay, we're going to start taking this apart, and they'd done a site visit, the first trip, to come up and take measurements and try to figure out, like, what do we need to keep together, what buildings come off, what stuff doesn't come off, and they did a great job where basically the Elm Street, Houston Street, and Main Street portion of Dealey Plaza, that is all still in one section, and they built a specific box that's really wide for that to fit in, to be able to store it properly, because the street plates and the grassy knoll and the pergola and everything around that, it'd be very difficult to take that apart in Lego street or green grass type size plates. It was covering a lot of the plates, so they did a great job. The thing that made me laugh about it was when they were going through and inventorying everything, they were picking apart or picking the people that were along the motorcade route from Love Field to Main Street or to Dealey Plaza, and they were like, okay, 1 male, white shirt, red pants, brown hair. Then they would pick up the next piece and go, 1 female, red hair, blue shirt, blue pants. And I was watching this and I said, hey, I appreciate the fact that you're going into this much detail, but none of these people between Love Field and Dealey Plaza, they could all be moved. Like, they could be set up wherever. They don't have to be assigned to a specific plate. These are just various figures. So I was fortunate enough that I built up a relationship with Stephen at the 6th Floor Museum, and he's like, man, I really want to take this. I really love to be able to have it, and at some point to be able to put it on display. And I said, hey, your timing's good because my mom's going to be selling the house and moving, and if you want it, it's yours, and let's get it packed up, and whenever you feel like you can put it on display, awesome.
Many thanks to Eric Peschke for his time, his stories, and frankly for building this thing. If you want to see pictures of all of this for yourself, you can find Eric on Facebook. The site is facebook.com/JFK Assassination Legos.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?